Hello, the elves have shelved, the bells have slayed, and we're looking over 2024 in sumo. Season Salt Throw.
Throw the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the dojo.
Hello and welcome to the dojo here on Mr. J-Wag's channel. We are here in the corner with the radiator, ready to recap an amazing 2024 in sumo. Now, sadly, this episode is the end of our end of 2024 sumo coverage. We've already covered our updated sumo rankings, who we think will be our next Ozeki, and who we think will be our next Yokozuna. Check the playlist for more. Well, first of all, we have some channel updates for 2024. This marks the end of our 5th year here on YouTube, so thank you so much for watching. This year, we passed 3,000 subscribers, we passed 210,000 views, and 21,000 watch hours. The channel also had its 2 most watched days ever this year, and we have started a Patreon. So if you've been around the dojo for a little bit and want to help out, check it out. All the information is there, and we would love your support. Remember, the more support we get, the more episodes there will be. In 2024, 9 wrestlers made their Makuuchi debut, including Ono Sato, Takeru Fuji. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about those two a little bit later, but also making their debut this year, Ono Katsu, Oshoma, Shimazu Umi, Toki Hayate, Shidokuma, Shishi, and Asa Koryu. And we cannot have the debuts without also having the Intai or the retirements. Sunrise, Sunset. And a number of our favorites ended up hanging up the Mawashi in 2024, including Kyoku Taisei. His highest rank achieved was Maegashira 8. He had 34 basho at the Juryo rank, only 4 in Makuuchi with 1 Kachikoshi, his debut, which was a 10-5, and he earned a Kanto show. Some of you may also remember him from the documentary A Normal Life, the Chronicle of a Sumo Wrestler. Hokuseiho, whose highest rank achieved was Maegashira 6. He was famous for being the tallest wrestler in recent memory, and also famous for assaulting stablemates and then stealing from them, forcing him to retire. He was the prize recruit of the Miyagino stable, and his scandal forced the temporary closure of that stable, all of the Rikishi and coaches being transferred to the Isagahama stable, and caused a demotion of the former Hakuho in the elder ranks. Koto Eiko, whose highest rank was Maegashira 4. He spent 29 basho in Makuuchi over a 17-year career and will stay with the Sadogatake Beya as Oguruma Oyakata. Tsuyoshi, who topped out at Maegashira 3. Famed, like me, for his salt throw, he was the pixie with the most swag in recent memory. He had a Jun Yusho plus a Kanto show in July of 2019. He helped his stablemate Terunofuji win his second Yusho in 2020 by defeating Asanoyama, who was on the leaderboard down the stretch. And our first retired Sanyaku member, Onosho, who made it all the way up to Komusubi. Also in his career, he had a Shukun Sho Outstanding Performance Prize and 3 Kanto Sho Fighting Spirit Prizes to go with 2 Kinboshi against Hakuho and Haramafuji. He made Komusubi in his 4th Makuuchi basho at age 20, but unfortunately was severely hurt in the next basho and never returned to the Sanyaku. He earned a Juryo Yusho, and unlike several of his contemporaries, he did not seek elder stock. Aoyama, the Bulgarian mountain. He made it all the way up to Sekiwake, in addition to 2 Jun Yusho, a Gino Sho Technique Prize, and 4 Kanto Sho Fighting Spirit Prizes. He got 1 Kinboshi versus Haramafuji, and will stay in sumo as Iwatomo Oyakata. Myogiryu ended up topping out at Sekiwake, also with a Jun Yusho, 6 Technique Prizes, and 6 Kinboshi, 2 versus Hakuho. He spent 13 basho in the Sanyaku and will stay in the Sumo Association as Furiwake Oyakata. And of course, former Ozeki Takakeisho, who recently retired. If you're interested in him, trust me, we did a whole episode when he went Entai. He will stay in sumo as the Minatogawa Oyakata. This year also saw the passing of 2 Yokozuna. 52nd Yokozuna Kitano Fuji passed away at the age of 82 this year. He finished his career with 10 Yusho, 4 Jun Yusho, and of course an epic rivalry with best friend and fellow Yokozuna Tamano Umi. Also this year we say goodbye to the 64th Yokozuna, Akebono, at the age of 54. He of course was famed for being the first non-Japanese Yokozuna, And in a career that lasted only 78 basho, Akebono had 11 yusho and 13 jun yusho. And he is considered by many, including me, to be the greatest pusher-thruster of all time. Now, longtime viewers will know this is not just a simple ranking of who I thought the best wrestlers of the year were. This is sort of a recap of the year and whose story dominated 2024. For example, last year I thought Kirishima was the best wrestler in sumo, but he was only number 2 in whose year was it, because I thought Taka Keisho was involved in the story of sumo more for the entire year. So while I definitely take ring success into account, we are looking at more of like holistically overarching view of whose year was 2024. First of all, some honorable mentions. The sport of sumo itself, it is doing incredibly well. 2024 was the first year since 1996 where every ticket for every basho was sold. And I'm sure, completely coincidentally, 1996 was also the last year a Japanese yokozuna won 4 or more yusho in a year. And once again, I will bring up Tamawashi. He broke the record for most consecutive matches. He has never missed a match, except for COVID, but that one doesn't count. He also turned 40 this year and got a Kachikoshi in the November tournament. I cannot say this any other way. This is not normal. We must appreciate Tamawashi and all the time we have left with him. Asanoyama. Yeah, remember when I said this wasn't going to be solely defined by success in the ring? Well, the first half of the year was very successful for Asanoyama. Did very well, made all the way back to the Sanyaku for the first time since his suspension, and then got hurt, and he dropped from Komusubi to Makushita in 3 tournaments. Now, longtime viewers know that Asanoyama is not necessarily my favorite. I have criticized his style over the years, and I frankly think he's one of our more overrated recent Ozeki. But I still want the guy to do well. I loved it when he made it back into the Sanyaku. I love a good comeback story, and let's just hope that Asanoyama's got another comeback story in there somewhere. Now I'd like to shout out 3 guys who were in the Joy and the Sanyaku all year. Maybe weren't in the Yusho race too much, but I would like to say getting a winning record regularly at the top of the Makuuchi Banzake deserves attention. Abe got 51 wins this year and spent 4 of his 6 basho in the Sanyaku. Daisho had 50 wins, a Jun Yusho in May, and 5 basho in the Sanyaku. And Wakamoto Haru also had 50 wins. He recovered from an injury and will return to Sekiwake in the next tournament. Like I said, nothing exceptional, but attention should be paid. Attention should also be paid to the other Onami brother, Wakataka Kage. Once again, he started the year in Makushita recovering from an ACL meniscus injury and came back so strong. Since his return from injury, he has not gotten a losing record, and since his return to Sekitori status, he has gotten 4 consecutive double-digit win basho. He has been looking great. He's been looking incredibly consistent. He may possibly even be better than he was before the injury, and will start the next tournament at Komusubi. And as we alluded to earlier, Kirishima. Yes, he was 2nd in these rankings last year. And it makes sense. His 2023 was amazing. 2 Yusho. He earned his Ozeki fish. And then this year, it's been very, very inconsistent. First of all, he lost Ozeki, but he didn't lose Ozeki and fall all the way down Magashira ranks. He sort of stayed up at Sekiwake, ended up getting a 12-3 Jun Yusho. We're like, he's back, and then came back with a 6-9. Although this year was not his best or his most consistent, I am sure that the story of Kirishima has a few more chapters. And this brings us to our top 5. Whose year was it in 2024? Well, we will start off with number 5, Hoshoryu. Now, there is a rumor going around the YouTubes that I, for some reason, do not like Hoshoryu, which is absolutely false. I love the guy, but I can't really put him higher than 5th in a year where we have 4 Yusho winners above him. Oh yeah, he got winning records all year, 61 wins, and he went Kyujo twice, but never went Kataban. To go along with his first Yusho last year, this year he got 2 Jun Yusho, including ending the year on a 13-2 Jun Yusho. The JSA has already said that a 13-2 will count as a Yusho equivalent, so if he does really well in the January tournament, I guarantee you Hoshoryu will be higher than 5 on this list next year. Next, number 4, Terunofuji, who won 2 Yusho this year, and also missed 4 basho. This is going to be very similar to what I said about Terunofuji last year. How much longer can he continue? Well, unlike last year, I do think we are going to get at least 1 Yokozuna next year, so I don't think he's going to make it through 2025. I think he's holding out, just waiting for someone else to get the rope. And while I will criticize him for his absence, I will absolutely praise him for the fact that he won 2 more Yusho, getting him up to 10 for his career. Congratulations, Terunofuji. Number 3, Takeru Fuji. What a story this was. So Takeru Fuji started the year as like the 6th or 7th best wrestler in his own stable. Started the year with a Judyo Yusho in his debut. And then in his Makuuchi debut, won his first 11 matches. That had never happened before. Then he won the whole damn tournament with a 13-2, sweeping the Sansho prizes. What? Then he got hurt, winning that Yusho, and then tumbled down the Bansuke because he was hurt. But then he managed to arrest himself in Judyo and come right back up. Get another Judyo Yusho, but in Makuuchi, only a 10-5. It's just so fascinating to be like a year into a wrestler's Makuuchi career, a wrestler who has had this much proven success and still not be entirely sure where to place him in his true talent level. We are going to learn so much about Takeru Fuji next year, assuming he stays healthy. And if he doesn't, then I guess we will learn that Takeru Fuji doesn't stay healthy. And now for the second year in a row, the number 2 spot goes to the wrestler who won the most matches in Makuuchi this year, Koto Zakada. He had 66 wins this year, he made Ozeki, he won his first Yusho, and that went along with 2 Jun Yusho, one of which was the January tournament where he lost a playoff to Terunofuji. Koto Zakada had an amazing year. When the worst part of your year was an 8 and 7, you had an excellent year. Now the question is Koto Zakada a wrestler who's going to be around like the 10-win mark as an Ozeki during his peak? Or is he going to be able to jump out and get these excellent tournaments like he did last January and this November? If this truly is like a jump, a leap to a higher level of sumo, we will see Koto Zakada with a Yokozuna belt very quickly. Based on my research, Koto Zakada would only need a 12-3 Jun Yusho to be considered for Yokozuna after the next tournament. And of course, no surprise here, number 1 goes to Ono Sato, who, as we recall, made his Makuuchi debut this year. Yes, debut in January, won 65 matches, 2nd place in Makuuchi this year, won 2 Yusho, made Ozeki before the year was out, and took home 8 special prizes in only 5 eligible tournaments. So my big question with Ono Sato is, how dominant will he be and how fast? Because that will definitely affect if we have any other Yokozuna runs happening next year. Because if we only get one next year, I think it's going to be Ono Sato. We seem to be on the cusp of something new in sumo, and it's very fortunate because it's happening right at the end of the year, which is when I do this episode. See, last year, in this episode, I was doing a lot of talking about how the 3 young Ozeki are going to have a year to sort of figure their stuff out before the new hotness shows up, and there were 3 of the young hotness I was very interested in. And of course, the young Ozeki I was talking about were Takakeisho, Kirishima, and Hoshodyo. And the young hotness I was talking about was Ono Sato and Atami Fuji and Hakuoho. I mean, all 6 of those are excellent wrestlers, but only 2 of them made a lot of noise this year. See, I thought this year was going to be a year where we had all these guys who were sort of like in the late 20s, early 30s. It was going to be sort of their last gasp before we started getting into the young hotness and their swift rises up the Bansuke. Well, they didn't have a year. They had 1 basho, and then in March, Takeru Fuji showed up, and then in May, Ono Sato arrived. And now it sort of looks like the entire Makuuchi Bansuke above the age of 29 feels like they're going to be in the back seat from here on out. Or at least if not in the back seat, at least in like, the middle seat. It's like a big van where you got like the 2 driver seats in the front and then like the middle rows and then rows going, you get it. Now Terunofuji has absolutely done his best. He's been an excellent Yokozuna and he finally won his 10th Yusho. But this is going to be a Yokozuna hood that is going to be largely defined by its absence rather than its successes. Terunofuji has only finished 8 basho at Yokozuna, winning 6 of them and getting 1 Jun Yusho. That means out of his 20 basho at Yokozuna, 12 of them have been Kyujo. Now, Kashiwado also had 12 Kyujo, but it took him 47 basho at Yokozuna to achieve that. Now, I think we might be approaching a time where the YDC and the JSA may be getting a little bit more lenient in their Yokozuna promotions. As we saw in the Yokozuna Outliers episode, sometimes they are willing to fudge the promotion rules a little bit when a Yokozuna is getting a bit long in the tooth. So it's not hard to come up with a plausible scenario where we will have 3 Yokozuna, all 28 or younger, at this time next year. Now, timing is going to be very important. Now, each of our Ozeki could win 2 Yusho next year, but depending on the timing, we could still have 0 to 3 Yokozuna promotion. But what if they rotate? What if it ends up going like Onosato, then Kotozakura, then Hoshoryu, and then they repeat that again, and so no one gets the two back-to-back? And if that happens, will we see a return to the days of the dip, where if we had a prospective Yokozuna who had an amazing tournament, but then a not-so-great tournament, they would sometimes give him the dip and a chance to make good in that third tournament to make Yokozuna? All this, again, was explained in the Yokozuna episodes. Or, if the dream scenario happens and we get the double Yokozuna promotion we are all hoping for after January, and then Onosato starts going ham in the spring with Yusho in March and May, that could leave us 3 Yokozuna by July with no Ozeki. Because looking at the rest of the Banzuke, we don't seem to have a lot of young hotness charging its way up right now. We have Hakuoho, but he is recovering from injury. We have Aonishiki down in Juryo, who's young and very successful, but he is undersized, and I think that's going to ultimately limit his ceiling. And yes, we do have some wrestlers up at the top of the Banzuke who are just past their peak. The Waka brothers, Kirishima, who could still make some noise up there, but they're going to have to make an Ozeki run, not only fighting each other trying to get these wins, but also trying to fight 3 young, healthy Ozeki who are all shooting for Yokozuna. And then we have the idea of Terunofuji coming in for occasional basho and doing well when he does finish the tournament, right about the time he'd be facing those guys. Of course, it's very easy to say that, like, I've got this idea and these things are definitely going to happen, but we all know I can be very, very wrong. I mean, none of us saw Takeru Fuji coming, and he made a gigantic impact this year. I'm sure at this time next year I will be talking about another wrestler who came out of nowhere we never could have expected. So, while we're all still talking about this idea of a possible double Yokozuna promotion in January, John Gunning managed to chime in on social media with an interesting factoid. For those curious about who would be the 74th Yokozuna and who would be the 75th in the event of a double promotion in January, it's only decided when the first man retires. Earlier retirement becomes the 74th. Now that fascinates me, especially when we are talking about a sport that loves its history as much as sumo does. Imagine fighting like most of your entire career and not knowing which Yokozuna you were until after your career was already over. So yes, we are on the cusp of something brand new and something not at all engaged with the sumo of recent years. Remember, all 3 of these young Ozeki never faced Hakuho. But unfortunately, we can't know that until we're through it, at least a little bit. But fortunately, we are days away from beginning to find out. Thank you so much for watching the dojo, not just this episode, but watching this year. I would not have stuck around for 5 years by the corner with the radiator talking to a camera in my bedroom if I didn't think that there was someone out there listening who wanted to hear it. So thank you for sticking around. And according to my deep dives into the analytics of this channel, there are about 450 of you who've been around since year 1, the COVID OGs. Thank you most of all. You started with something, and hopefully it's gotten better, and you've gotten the reward of watching the show grow, along with our respective sumo fandoms. And thank you to all of you who supported in the holiday thingamaganza last year and have joined the Patreon this year. Your support means a lot. I promise you, it goes to this very selfish things like food. But yes, thank you so much for helping me build something weird and fun in this little corner of the internet. I could not have done it without you. So yeah, I think that is about all we've got for the dojo this year. If you celebrate winter, however you do it, make it a good one, and return for all of the exciting January coverage, which will be coming very, very soon. So everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next year on the dojo.